Rain hammered the shattered remnants of Chicago, turning the cracked streets into dark rivers. Broken streetlights flickered under the deluge, casting jagged reflections across ruined storefronts and crumbling skyscrapers. Above it all, alien drones buzzed like mechanical vultures, scanning for any last flickers of human defiance. Jack Cross lay prone on a rooftop, cloaked in tattered camouflage stitched with scraps of alien fabric. Through the broken scope of his rifle, he tracked a squad of HFY soldiers marching below. They moved with an arrogance only the truly invincible could afford. Heavy, armor-plated beasts with glistening mandibles and brutal, gleaming weapons slung low across their muscular bodies. Jack knew their type too well. They didn't walk like soldiers. They strutted like hunters. Once, he would have met them head-on with a SEAL team at his back. Now he was alone. Almost. At his side, Shadow, a thick-furred German shepherd, barely made a sound. The dog's eyes locked onto the aliens with the same lethal focus Jack carried in his blood. He exhaled slowly, letting the anger simmer without boiling over. Anger wouldn't help him here. Precision would. Timing would. The lead HFY barked something guttural into its comms. The others fanned out, weapons raised, moving toward a battered church where a group of desperate survivors had taken shelter earlier that week. Jack's jaw clenched. He could see it already, the way the aliens would corner them like rats, how they'd laugh when the screams started. Not tonight. Jack slid back from the rooftop, moving fluidly despite the ache in his ribs from a firefight 2 days prior. His mind worked through the terrain instinctively, recalling every alley, every crumbling bridge. He and Shadow disappeared into the rain-slicked night, silent as wraiths. The Preserve, that's what the HFY called it. A massive slice of devastated city, fenced off with shimmering energy barriers, seated with human captives for their so-called grand hunt. Every kill broadcast, live across the galaxy. Another spectacle for alien aristocrats lounging on jeweled thrones. He heard the propaganda in the early days. Humans were fierce, stubborn prey. The perfect game, worthy of sport. They hadn't counted on someone like Jack Cross. He made it to the church just ahead of the squad. Inside, a handful of gaunt faces stared back at him. Men, women, a child clutching a stuffed rabbit soaked through with rainwater. He held a finger to his lips. No sound, no movement. He motioned toward the old sewer hatch behind the altar, lifting it with barely a creak. The survivors fled down the ladder without hesitation. They'd learned to trust men like him, or die. Jack turned back just in time to see the lead HFY shove open the heavy wooden doors with a crash. Shadow growled low in his throat, ears flat. Jack touched his side, signaling stay, and faded into the wreckage of a broken confessional booth. The first alien lumbered forward, sniffing the air with sensory tendrils. It didn't even see the tripwire Jack had strung across the pews. A heartbeat later, the floor beneath it erupted in a bloom of jagged steel and concrete as Jack's improvised mine detonated. The other aliens roared, firing blindly into the darkness. Jack moved like a shadow, weaving through the chaos, putting 2 rounds into a soldier's exposed side joint before vanishing again. The remaining hunters hesitated. Fear, small but tangible, crept into their postures. Good, Jack thought grimly. Fear was a weapon too. When the last alien fell, gurgling wetly on the shattered stone, Jack knelt to strip one of its comm devices. He worked quickly, dirty fingers bypassing alien tech with crude but practiced methods. Static crackled in his earpiece. Then the sharp bark of an officer's voice. Sector 9 compromised. Deploy additional hunters. Bring the beast back alive if possible. Beast. Jack smiled without humor. Let them come. He melted into the rain once more, Shadow padding at his side. 2 miles out, hidden in the shell of a collapsed subway station, Commander R.H.A. Zinn watched the feeds with growing irritation. The human, this beast, was disrupting the grand hunt. There were protocols for these situations, but protocol was tedious. He preferred action. He turned to his second-in-command. Inform the elites. Release the bloodhounds. This human wishes to play predator. Let us show him true prey. His subordinates saluted, chittering in affirmation. Back under the endless storm, Jack crossed into the heart of the preserve, past burned-out husks of vehicles and shattered statues of old heroes. Every step carried him deeper into enemy territory, into the jaws of the hunt. He welcomed it. In the distance, alien dropships howled like wolves across the sky, disgorging fresh squads. Shadow barked once, low and eager. Jack tightened his grip on the stolen rifle. Tonight, the hunters would learn a lesson they'd never forget. Earth wasn't broken yet, and neither was he. The first kill came easy. Jack waited in the ruins of a bank, watching the shimmer of alien optics through the misted windows. The elite hunters were different, taller, heavier, armored in black plates pulsing with bioluminescent veins. Their weapons weren't mass-issued rifles. They carried close combat claws and shock cannons designed to cripple prey, not kill it. Capture orders. Jack's mouth curled into a thin smile. They thought he'd let them take him alive. He timed his strike to the thunder. When the sky cracked with sound, he moved, fast and silent. A shard of glass crunched beneath his boot. The lead elite turned just as Jack drove a scavenge blade between the armor plates at its throat. Hot alien ichor sprayed across Jack's forearm as the body slumped soundlessly. The other two reacted with a fraction of a second's delay. Long enough. Shadow launched from cover, clamping down on an elite's hamstring with brutal force. The creature roared, spinning wildly, and Jack finished it with 2 quick rounds to the base of the skull. The last hunter opened fire in blind panic, energy blasts ripping through stone and steel. Jack stayed low, moved behind the shattered counters, and closed the distance. A flying tackle brought the alien down. They struggled, but Jack was relentless, brutal. He smashed the breathing mask aside, exposing soft tissue, and drove his knife home. It wasn't clean. It wasn't elegant. It was survival. Jack wiped his blade on the dead alien's armor and rose, heart hammering not with fear, but with focus. Shadow stood beside him, ears pricked, tail high. Across the ruined cityscape, Jack could feel the tension shift. Somewhere in their hive mind, the Jaterii were learning something new, prey that hunted back. He scavenged quickly, pocketing alien grenades and a small device that looked like a beacon. Jack flipped it over in his hand, recognizing the standard distress signal geometry. He grinned, an idea forming. Minutes later, a squad of fresh hunters closed in on the bank, drawn by the beacon's pulse. They entered cautiously, weapons raised, forming a tight wedge formation perfected over centuries of conquest. Jack triggered the trap from 3 rooftops away. The explosives he'd rigged from power cores and gutted batteries tore through the squad, folding steel and flesh alike in a mangled ruin. Secondary blasts collapsed the street beneath them, entombing the survivors in rubble. Jack watched through a cracked scope, gauging their reactions. Confusion. Hesitation. Good. He wasn't fighting animals anymore. He was fighting bureaucracy, command chains, protocols that crumbled when the plan did. He moved again, never lingering, always a ghost. In the alleys, he left signs of false movement, drag marks, splashes of blood, crude human symbols scratched into walls. He wanted them angry. He wanted them sloppy. Each time they regrouped, he hit harder. An ambush in a parking garage left 2 more dead. A sabotage supply drop exploded mid-distribution, scattering alien gear and body parts across 3 city blocks. Jack even spliced into an abandoned relay and broadcast the dying screams of their comrades over open comms. By midnight, the grand hunt had become a slaughterhouse. From his mobile command post, Commander R.H.A. Zinn fumed. He paced before a holographic map littered with red markers, each one a lost unit. His claws clicked in agitation against the steel floor. "This is no animal," he growled to his officers. "This is a weapon." The others shifted uneasily, unwilling to meet his gaze. "He uses tactics," one ventured. "He adapts." "No," RHA's snarled. "He defies." A word the Jeterii rarely needed. One reserved for anomalies, for aberrations that disrupted the grand order. RHA Zin leaned over the tactical table, fangs bared. "I want him isolated. Drive him toward the bone quarter. Deploy sentinels. Smoke him out." The orders flew out, but Jack had already moved beyond their reach. He understood what was coming. Cornering maneuvers, forced retreats, heavy reinforcements. He had no intention of running. In the shelter of a crumbling library, Jack patched up a shallow burn across his bicep. Shadow dozed nearby, ever alert. Around them, the remnants of a lost civilization whispered, broken spines of ancient books, cracked statues of forgotten heroes. Jack paused, breathing in the heavy, damp air. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about reminding the galaxy that humans didn't roll over. That for every helpless victim, there would be someone like him. Scarred, hunted, furious, ready to turn the tide. He finished the bandage, flexed his arm, and smiled grimly. The Jeterii thought the preserve was theirs. They were wrong. A low thrum built in the distance, dropships fanning out, forming a tightening noose. Jack stood, slinging his rifle across his back. He scratched behind Shadow's ears and whistled low. Time to tear the noose apart. He moved into the night, merging with the storm, leaving only death in his wake. The bone quarter lived up to its name. Jack stepped carefully across broken concrete veined with alien growths, twisted trees, and bone-white vines strangling everything they touched. This was where the Jeterii processed their trophies, a grim cathedral of death where human remains were cataloged, scored, displayed. Shadow's hackles rose as they crossed into the dead zone. The stench was unbearable, a mixture of scorched flesh and chemical rot. Jack pushed through it. Ahead, massive pylons jutted into the storm, crowned with the remains of human fighters impaled as warnings. Their armor was melted to their bones, their weapons fused uselessly to their hands. A snarl curled Jack's lips. This wasn't war. It was extermination. It was arrogance. A faint vibration trembled through the ground. Heavy steps, approaching from the north. Sentinels. Giant constructs piloted by Jeterii elites. Walking tanks armed with plasma cannons and harpoons meant for live captures. Jack ducked into the shattered remains of a hospital. He needed height, visibility, a place to stage the next move. Floors crumbled beneath him as he climbed, but he made it to the fourth story before the sentinels came into view. 4 of them, moving with mechanical inevitability, scanning in overlapping grids. Above, 2 dropships hovered, silent predators, searching for any sign of movement. Shadow whined low in his throat, ears pinned back. Jack knelt beside him, ruffling his fur briefly. "We make noise," he murmured. "Big enough they can't ignore." He didn't have the firepower to take down the sentinels head-on, but he didn't need to. From his pack, he pulled the last of his scavenged alien grenades, jury-rigged together into a crude satchel charge. Enough concussive force to bring down a building. If placed correctly. Jack moved fast, setting charges along the main support beams, while Shadow kept watch. Each placement was precise, brutal. He could hear the sentinels drawing closer, could feel the heat of the dropship's searchlights sweeping the ruined streets. When the final charge was primed, Jack sprinted to the roof, scooping Shadow under one arm. The building groaned under the strain. He hit the detonator. The world erupted in sound and fury. Steel screamed as it sheared apart. Glass and concrete rained down in a lethal storm. The sentinels nearest the blast toppled like felled trees, crushing each other under their own weight. Jack rolled behind a fallen air conditioning unit as debris peppered the rooftop. Shadow huddled close, trembling but silent. Smoke and dust blanketed everything. Shouts echoed from the dropships, panicked, disorganized. Perfect. Jack moved again, exploiting the chaos. He picked off isolated troops with surgical precision, each shot a whisper of death. A captain caught a bullet through the eye. A technician fell before he could trigger a beacon. Jack dismantled their formations piece by piece, never giving them time to react. Commander RHA Zinn watched the devastation unfold from the bridge of his command ship. His mandibles clicked furiously. "This is a disaster," one of his officers hissed. "No," RHA Zinn growled. "It is a crucible." He slammed a clawed fist into the tactical display, isolating Jack's location. "Release the stalkers. Flush them out. End this." Below, deep within hidden chambers beneath the bone quarter, hibernation pods split open. The stalkers, Jaterii bred for speed, stealth, and savagery, emerged, clicking and hissing, eager for the hunt. Unlike the armored elites, these creatures moved like liquid death, skin mottled to blend with shadows, claws sharpened to molecular edges. They would not capture. They would kill. Jack heard them before he saw them, a high-pitched, almost ultrasonic keening that set his teeth on edge. Shadow growled, low and deadly. "Yeah," Jack muttered. "I hear him too." He knew he couldn't outrun them. He couldn't outhide them. He could only outfight them. Jack led them deeper into the ruins, where sight lines collapsed and the ground turned treacherous. He rigged wire traps, improvised spike pits, choke points where he could even the odds. The first stalker fell to a tripwire snare, its shriek cut short as a spiked beam impaled it through the throat. The second and third weren't so foolish. They moved together, flanking him with impossible coordination. Jack barely dodged a raking swipe aimed for his spine, rolling into cover as Shadow launched himself at the nearest stalker. Fur and scale tangled. Jack didn't hesitate. He lined up a shot and took it, blowing a fist-sized hole through the creature's head. Shadow limped back, blood matting his side, but still standing. The last stalker circled them, slow and deliberate. Its body shimmered with adaptive camouflage, almost invisible against the wreckage. Jack closed his eyes, breathing deep, tuning out everything but sound. The scrape of claw against stone. He pivoted and fired. The stalker shrieked, its cloak failing as plasma rounds shredded its midsection. Silence fell. Jack crouched beside Shadow, running practiced hands over him, checking the wound. Superficial, painful, but not fatal. They would both live. For now. The radio on the dead stalker's belt crackled. "Retreat," came the command, filled with a bitterness Jack could taste even through the static. "All units, fall back. Preserve what remains." Jack sat back on his heels, stunned for the first time in days. They were retreating. He had broken them. In the distance, dropships pulled away from the bone quarter, engines howling in defeat. But Jack knew better than to celebrate. Predators didn't give up. They regrouped. They struck harder. This wasn't over. Not yet. He looked toward the heart of the city, where the alien command ship loomed like a cancer on the skyline, pulsing with dark light. Jack rose, bloodied and unbowed, and began walking toward it. The real hunt had just begun. The city's heart was a battlefield. Jack moved through the ruins like a phantom, closing on the alien command ship. Its hull throbbed with unnatural energy, a fortress of biometal and terror, casting a sickly glow across the wreckage. No more traps. No more ambushes. This time, Jack would strike at the head. Shadow limped beside him, every step a testament to stubborn loyalty. Blood streaked the dog's side, but his spirit remained unbroken. They were two of a kind, wounded, and rage alive. Jack surveyed the battlefield from the skeleton of a collapsed skybridge. The last of the Jatarii ground forces formed a desperate cordon around the ship's perimeter. Heavy weapons, shield arrays, overlapping fire zones. A meat grinder designed to stop anything that still dared fight. He studied their positions, tracing gaps, analyzing fields of fire. Old instincts surfaced, cold and clinical. He didn't have a manpower. He didn't have artillery. But he had fury. Jack scavenged what he could. Alien charge packs, fusion cores, even a battered human RPG from a fallen resistance nest. He built his plan in pieces, every step sharpening his focus until nothing else remained but the mission. No backup, no miracles, only him. When the first explosion tore through the southern barricade, the Jatarii reacted exactly as expected, shifting forces to contain the breach. Jack hit them from the west, using the stolen RPG to blast open a secondary gate. In the chaos, he moved like a ghost, sliding through shadows, eliminating patrols before alarms could sound. He could feel the command ship's shield hum in his bones, a living wall of energy that would deflect any conventional attack. Jack didn't aim to breach it. He aimed to shut it down. A maintenance hatch lay half-buried beneath debris near the base of the ship. He reached it under cover of smoke and thunder, setting demolition charges ripped from broken alien tech. 3 seconds. That's all he needed. The hatch blew inward with a sharp, metallic wail. Jack and Shadow dove through, rolling into the narrow service corridors beneath the hull. Inside, the air was suffocating, thick with pheromonal markers and static electricity. Pulsing conduits lined the walls, carrying alien lifeblood to every system. Jack moved fast, planting explosives at key junctures. Main power conduits, control nodes, shield anchors. His plan was simple: tear the ship apart from the inside before it could flee or retaliate. Shadow barked once, sharp and warning. Ahead, a detachment of Jatarii guards scrambled to intercept. Jack cut them down with brutal precision, conserving ammo, every shot deliberate. He pushed deeper, heart hammering. At last, he reached the core chamber. It loomed before him, a massive sphere of crackling energy, suspended by a lattice of alien tendrils. Around it, engineers and technicians turned in panic, barking orders, scrambling to protect the heart of their fortress. Jack gave them no time. He hurled a satchel charge into the midst of them, bullets sparking off the walls as he ducked behind a pillar. The explosion rocked the chamber, shattering containment fields and sending bodies tumbling like broken dolls. The core flickered. The ship trembled. Jack planted the final charge against the primary nexus and armed the timer. 90 seconds. He turned to go, and found Commander RHA blocking the exit. The Jatarii leader stood taller than any Jack had faced, clad in ceremonial armor etched with kill marks spanning centuries. His eyes glowed with fury. In one clawed hand, he held a vicious plasma blade that hissed and crackled with lethal promise. "You are a virus," RHA growled, voice thick with hate. "An infection we should have purged long ago." Jack wiped blood from his mouth and raised his rifle. "Maybe," he said, "but this virus bites back." RHA moved with terrifying speed, closing the distance in a blur. Jack fired, but the commander's armor absorbed the first rounds. The plasma blade slashed through the air, forcing Jack into a desperate dodge. They fought viciously, trading blows in the trembling chamber. Jack was faster. RHA was stronger. Every impact sent shocks through Jack's battered frame. His rifle jammed. He switched to his knife, barely parrying the plasma blade's furious strikes. The timer ticked down. 60 seconds. Shadow leapt into the fray, sinking his teeth into RHA's unarmored flank. The alien roared, tearing the dog free with brutal force, hurling him across the chamber. Something inside Jack snapped. He drove forward, low and brutal, taking a searing burn across his ribs as the plasma blade glanced off. He rammed his knife under RHA's chin, punching through softer flesh, twisting hard. The Jaterii commander spasmed, screeching in agony. Jack wrenched the blade free as RHA's collapsed, twitching. The core shrieked, energy arcing wildly. 30 seconds. Jack staggered to Shadow's side. The dog whimpered but pushed his feet, bleeding, limping. Together, they ran. The corridors blurred past. Smoke and fire choked the halls. Sirens howled alien warnings. Jack half-carried, half-dragged Shadow through the maintenance hatch, sprinting away from the dying ship. He made it to the edge of the crater as the charges detonated. The night became day. The ground heaved under Jack's boots as the alien command ship erupted in a storm of fire and fury. Debris rained down across the city. The Jaterii perimeter shattered, soldiers scattering like insects before a tidal wave. Jack collapsed behind a burned-out APC, shielding Shadow with his body as the shockwave rolled over them. When the world finally stilled, Jack lifted his head. The command ship was gone. Only a burning, smoking crater remained. The hunt was over. Jack rose slowly, cradling Shadow in his arms. Around them, the battered remnants of humanity began to emerge from the ruins. Wide-eyed survivors, scarred fighters, faces turned toward the impossible victory. Jack didn't say a word. He didn't need to. He had reminded the galaxy of a simple truth, one the Jaterii would never forget. Humans were never prey. They were predators. And Jack was the deadliest of them all.